Hello, namaste, another wonderful Wednesday. And Instagram is letting you guys know that I'm going live today. I have 3 guests today on my show, so it's going to be great. The topic of the live, guys, is written on top: happiness. And is our happiness sort of related to social media? Or if I put it the other way around, since this social media has become so big and impacted all of our lives, do you guys think that social media has benefited your daily lives, or has been destroying your life and self-image and self-love and love? Anyhow, that's the topic. So today I will be having a few guests. There's going to be my dear friend Trido, also George, and also Brandon. And if I'm going to say right now that these are my favorite friends, you are going to say you're just saying that to everybody. But what can I do? They are, really. And anyway, because they are often the guest of my life, right? So here we are. George is here perfectly and magically. So I can also get Brandon and Trido all joining me. Good morning, my love.
Hello, can you hear me all right?
Yes, beautiful. And look at you. Where are you? Costa Rica?
I'm in my family home of Cornwall, England. I've returned to see all my family here on the Cornish coast, which is very special.
I see. I was thinking that maybe you are in Costa Rica.
Yeah,
Beautiful. I
I
have,
mean
yeah, go ahead.
it's very green where I am, but we and sadly, I mean we do have a few palm trees, but they're normally about 5 foot tall.
So how have you been, George? Why England?
Well, I haven't been back for a year. It's nice to catch up with all the family, you know, and I'm actually doing a retreat in Norway. We've got 20 souls coming on a retreat I'm doing starting in a few days' time in Norway. So that's part of the reason why I've come to Europe.
I see. What part of Norway?
Bergen and then the mountains. We're going to be doing a lot of light activation over the summer solstice. We're going to be practicing some Wim Hof techniques. So, you know, hot, cold, it's very good for the immune system, as you know.
And Norway and Sweden is the place for it. Freezing your buttock.
Yeah, but you know, I swim. I mean, the water's like 12 degrees here. I mean, so it's not too cold, but it's so good for you. I swim every day here, and you just feel so activated. It really empowers the immune system. I can't stress that enough for all of us to do the hot cold.
That's wonderful. That is really wonderful. So tell me, how many days is retreat and what's happening?
So the retreat's, I think, 5 nights, 6 days. It's going to be a lot
5 nights,
of
6 days.
yeah. It's a good stretch. It's going to be a lot of. I'm going to be doing lectures and talks on astrology, tarot, and a lot of sound healing through frequency, light activation, meditation every day. I've got a wonderful meditator and a yogi, you know, teaching. So we'll have yoga practice probably twice a day. We'll do a lot of hikes, real connection with nature. We've got beautiful souls coming, so it'll be very nice for humans to sort of get to know community. You know, that's what's most needed, isn't it? People finding soul family.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful. Brandon, my love, I think I saw you. I sent you an invite, but if Brandon and Trido are here, please send me a request so I can accept you, because that's how I managed to get George to come up. Okay, George, so what can you tell us before the other guys join us about social media and our happiness or unhappiness. What is your thought on it?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I obviously have social media presence. I have a small following here on Instagram. And then I have a private group on Telegram for those souls who want to go a little bit deeper. But I do sometimes switch off. For example, I've hardly been on social media for the last 2 weeks since I've been here in Europe. And sometimes that's hard because people have questions for me and they get frustrated because I don't get back to them. Mm. At the same time, it's very, very important for all of us to have switch off, to reconnect to nature. And and the addictive quality of social media is true for all of us. So it's just being mindful to create what I call good Saturn, good boundaries, good barriers and relationships with social media. So for example, if you're on, you set a time, maybe you're on from 6 to 8 in the evening or 3 times a day. Everyone does it differently, but I really try now and shut all social media down at least for 2 hours before going to sleep, always.
Yeah, but George, do you think like social media kind of putting people more into competition? Like, for instance, I have 14K followers on my Instagram and I'm happy. I just grew my Instagram and suddenly I'm looking at someone else, they got like hundred thousands or millions, and I'm like, oh, what is, so that's what I mean. What
no, well, I don't focus on that because that's sort of like the negative shadow coming in. Because there are many reasons why some people have 100,000. I mean, I do understand some people can buy followers. Yeah. So I think it's always a very tricky descent into because what is pain? Suffering is connected to pain, and I think if one's being authentic in focusing on the relationships that you have, the quality, like what we're doing now, the qualitative aspect of this as opposed to the quantitative. And the more we can focus on that, the more real people see we are, and the more effective we can be then in spreading truth, love, frequencies amongst our fellow human beings, as opposed to getting caught up in the negative competition.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm not looking for your view, because of course you are one of the ones who's enlightened, but I'm asking you, what is your view of especially the teens, the youngsters, and everybody else? Has social media kind of affect their self-esteem, or
Yes. Well, I mean, one of the areas which I focus on is from much of a global perspective, and a galactic one, is to do what is artificial intelligence. Mm-hmm. And AI really at the end of the day is pernicious. It's deeply destructive to the human psyche, because it takes us out of our body. And so I will use social media to reconnect humans to nature. I will use it to reconnect to nutrition, to good air, to good water, all the things that matter for me. But I think, a lot of young people, but also a lot of older people, can be very addicted to media. And I've gone through stages myself. So, I'm not different from that. But I think we just have to be much more supportive around each other and keep reminding ourselves that actually the reality of life is this: humanity and relationships. And if the social media can support that, then we're in a good way. But if it replaces it, then it's a very dark thing.
Yeah. And I noticed, George, like a lot of people that I'm doing a coaching session, especially our young generation, they really have addiction to it. And parents are complaining about how addicted their kids are to social media, and how they cannot, put their phones down for a couple of minutes. Especially, I did a lot of sessions with these are like crowds that they were like 10 or 15 when they started. Their parents were actually my followers, and then they became my followers, and now they're in like between 18, 20 range, and they are like, I am so addicted, and before my sleep they spend so many hours on their social media just flipping. And although they know that the lights, the x-ray, the blue lights and all of these is interrupting your sleep, yet the addiction doesn't let them to turn off the phone or put it away. So do you have any suggestion? What do you think we have to do with this young kids, or even older adults? They're losing their health, their sleeps, the quality of their life because of the addiction that, oh, I'm just going to see what's going on Explore, and boom, 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 and it's gone. And there are a couple of hours that they're not noticing because the time passes by so quickly. They're so engaged with this social media. So do you have any suggestion? Like, what would you
Yeah, I mean,
think?
I think if we're dealing with minors, if we're dealing with real children, then the adults, the parents, have to take responsibility and create some proper
But I
boundaries.
was just telling you, some of the adults are also
Well, then,
addicted.
then that's more of a problem. And they're, you know, it's a bit like the alcoholic. They're either going to hit rock bottom and have a renaissance. They're going to hit rock bottom and have, you know, a sense of, okay, I need to live life differently because it's going to destroy me otherwise. Or they're going to waste away their life in that Neptunian fashion of the illusion. But that is what the false matrix is, after all. And AI is a false matrix because, I mean, look, here's the positive of AI, Sudi. You and I are speaking to each other now without physically being in the same room or in the same country.
Right.
And that's positive. But at the end of the day, we all know many negatives. I mean, porn addiction is absolutely, you know, is dreadful what's happened on the planet. And that really impacts relationships. And so humans have just got to, you know, really realize this. And we've all got to try and support each other. And there have to be better guidelines, and parents have to do better jobs. But also young adults have to sort of wake up to realize that, you know, this is not serving their interests. And it's really it's a fault of the system, but really they have to reconnect with nature. Because here's the truth: when you reconnect with nature, whether it's the piezoelectric charge in the land, walking barefoot, drinking structured water, eating organic, doing sun gazing, many different things, swimming in the ocean, you suddenly begin to realize the joy of what human life's about. And suddenly the AI gets tempered. It becomes almost like a support as opposed to an addictive necessity. And that's what we need to do, is bring people back into nature, because AI seeks to take us out of nature.
Right.
So that's how I tend to look at it.
Yeah, so if you look at the social media and in another form of addiction, oftentimes when I deal with addiction, I always say, what about, I mean, what's underneath the need to become addicted, right? So if you can look at it a little bit deeper, in a deeper view, is like, what is it? What is missing? Is it loneliness? You know, is it boredom? Do I feel like my life is so empty? What's the underlying?
No, now we're getting to the core of it. You see,
yeah.
Many human beings in this artificial world have deliberately been pushed to forget who they are spiritually. In other words, as spiritual beings having a human physical existence. And ultimately, it's connected to the fear of what we perceive as death. When one can overcome, and don't get me wrong, this is a lifetime's work on all of us, you and I included. When we can move beyond our fear of death, to know that it is an illusion, to reconnect with one's past life, to reconnect with our higher self and our galactic heritage, which is a whole other conversation, but certainly a major wheelhouse for me, then you start to see the reality of how life plays out. And so instead of me constantly wanting to get likes or wanting to be loved artificially, you do the inner work, you go in on yourself, you connect to your higher self, you cleanse your pineal gland, you make real relationships, friendships, and then the love stems from there, whether it's erotic love or filius love or agape love, you know, all the different forms of love. And I think that's what we need, the teachers and society needs to develop, is reconnect to our spiritual inheritance, our spiritual higher sense of self. And when we can do that, it's really going to be a beautiful, beautiful world. And that's partly what we're birthing in this great awakening, is the reconnection to our higher selves.
George, what do you think, like astrologically, what do you think is coming up for the next few months?
Well, astrologically, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, Pluto's just dipped back into Capricorn, which he will basically be there now until the end of 2024 for his final push. I mean, we are going to see the absolutely eradication and the destruction of all these old institutions. I mean, we're talking all these institutions. It doesn't matter whether it's Fox News or CNN or the BBC. It doesn't matter whether it's the FBI, MI6, CIA, all these alphabet agencies. They're all going to be revealed for what they are. So I definitely see a huge shift in what we consider to be institutional control. This is the realm of Saturn, And if you think in the myth, Saturn castrates his father Uranus, which is the planet for freedom. And we're seeing now much more Saturn being revealed for who he is, for what it is. So I would say the astrology over the next year and a half really does lean into the end of one old era and the birth of a new. It's very exciting, but I always say to my friends and supporters and all the people I connect with, and I say it to myself as well, don't get caught up in the fear. That's very much three-dimensional Matrix. Yes, the Matrix is a documentary, it's not a movie. You know, don't allow that fear game which the mainstream media, the fake news will propagate. No, go back into the love. Follow people like you and do the spiritual work and work with breath. Really, really focus on the breath, because then you open up your pineal gland and you begin to see what is truth and where the lies are. You know, most of what we're witnessing at the moment is an inversion. So if the media says jump left, you jump right. It's almost that simple.
Yeah. So what I was thinking is like, you know, sometimes you heard this saying, like, as long as you're letting the failure and fear be in front and activated, you would never experience success. So I feel energetically, because according to human design, you know, I'm a 2-4, and my ruler is emotional. So I have always been feeling the world or human beings or the energy by the feelings. And the feeling I'm getting the last few months is like, the energy is accelerating, and the feeling is like all of a sudden is like all this fearful, because we have this inner knowing that, as you said, we feel that change is coming our way and the energy is moving so fast. Yeah.
It's
And
really interesting you bring this up, Sudhi, because I mean, firstly, we have a lot of planets in Taurus right now. Now, Taurus is fixed energy. It's fixed Earth. It's very powerful, but it's also very sensual. The moon is exalted in Taurus, so it's all about feeling. But what we've got going on, we've got Uranus and Jupiter in Taurus. Uranus is total innovation, so total change of how we're going to feed ourselves, total change in how we perceive the world, the institutions, almost also perception of frequency. Taurus rules music is ruled, and Taurus rules music. So healing. The healing ability of frequency and sound vibration, we are totally getting an upgrade. So on the one hand, if we're in the fear, we're going to feel very unstable. But when we go into the love, you know, think of Pam Gregory. She always says this: choose the love. You know, the well-known astrologer. She's another Brit. You know, if you choose that love frequency, because you can't have two frequencies operating in your body at one time. Only one can exist. So you choose love, and you operate at that 528 hertz or the 432, whichever one you want to say. You know, you tune into that, and then your whole body creates a piezoelectric charge, and you actually create something alchemical that happens in your body, and you start that transformation. And it's very potent. It's why then those types of people have healing hands, and they're able to activate their higher self, and they end up living longer and looking younger. You see, that's part of Venus too. It's once you still do the spiritual work, you don't need the Botox, you don't need all the extra stuff. You really can start to have a biological age half your chronological age. It's quite powerful.
Yeah, and you know, George, I'm a Taurian, so especially for us being a fixed sign, change is so difficult, and it brings so much fear. So I feel the same way too. I'm feeling energetically, I'm feeling these changes, like things are going to change, and I have to make some fundamental changes in my life. I mean, for instance, I'll give you an example, because I've been studying, getting really deep into human design. And, you know, so when you study something, you spend a lot of time at sitting around. So I'm not active as much as I usually, and I really have to be active to be tolerable for other people, you know, to be around me. But I'm saying, like, let me save this time to study and get faster. Like, I got my first certificate and I'm into getting the second and third one. So I'm not as active, and I know I have to make these changes. And what happens when you're sitting down for many hours, your energy just goes down, you know, and then you want to lift it up, and somehow unconsciously, I'm looking for sugar or carbs or something or caffeine to lift me up to continue doing that. And I know consciously this is wrong, but I keep doing it. So now I'm feeling this energy is all changing and is moving, and I have to make a change. And I'm like, oh my God, all these fears is coming up. So basically what I said to myself since yesterday, George, since it's just you and I and nobody can hear us here, I said to myself, you gotta move on. I mean, you're teaching so many people all how it is to have a healthy life, and you're not being an example. So since yesterday, George, I started to really get on it. I woke up. I usually get up at 4 a.m. anyway, but I did my walk and I was active before I get here, and I'm just, like you said, breath work and working on all of this stuff. But I wanted to tell you something. I was having a long conversation with another friend of mine, and he said that all of a sudden he started to feel this energy too, like we were sharing information. And he said that he started walking early in the morning, walking barefoot on grass. He's doing his meditation. He's doing so many things to align himself with this high vibration. And he said for a few days, everything was really good. And all of a sudden, a huge clash. Everything went into disaster. So we were having a conversation about this, and I want to ask your opinion. What happens if you're doing a series of good things that are good for you, and all of a sudden everything goes wrong? He was telling me, yeah, before you said that, he was telling me, it really feels to me like a huge unseen force is against me. So go ahead.
Well, I think, there are a number of things, and everything is a case by case example.
Yeah.
But certainly, when we get aligned, we're going to be tested, because that's the time in the way to get tested, to see whether has got the mettle, the dedication, the willpower, the drive to focus. And then, of course, on the demonic side, there's always this. This is a world of polarity, and that's part of why we choose to come and experience this. It's very dense, the third dimension. I have memory in other places as well where it's less dense, in different realms. This is a very, very dense planet, but it does allow us to play in the polarity. Yeah. So, when we are focusing on the light, then we can get pulled over. I'll give you a really good example. And it's not controversial if people understand where I'm coming from. If they jump on it judgmentally quickly, then it's going to come across a judgment. Let's take John of God. Now, John of God, and I have friends of mine who went to him multiple times. Yeah. I mean, and yet we all know how it ended. It ended very badly and very darkly. But it didn't start that way, because what happened, he was allowing energies to come into him. And eventually what happened, they were in service to healing. The healing was profound for thousands and thousands of people. But eventually he got hijacked somewhere, and I never met him. But you see, that's the polarity. Yeah. So the more light you are, the greater the threat that the darkness can come in and do the switcheroo. So we have to be very conscious. And so the more powerful we become in the spirit world, we have to create the right people around us to protect us, to help us. We need the right prayers and the connections to the divine. And it's a life work. It's a real journey. The spiritual path isn't the easy path. That's the other thing. Sometimes it's why I actually have sympathy for certain people who are going for more the zombie way of life, is because, I mean, I don't think it's a satisfying life. As Socrates says, the unexamined life is a very unsatisfactory life. But I do think in some ways it can be easier, because you just go through it you're just going through the motions. You're not really connecting to it, where I feel we're here to experience that polarity. I mean, one of my friends, he was a marksman for one of the alphabet agencies, and now he's come round to the light, and he's an amazing service to humanity. There is a great example of the polarity for being, an assassin, and then suddenly now being able to be in service to thousands of people. So there are many ways to live a life, but I do think we're meant to experience the polarity. And so when we can witness it, then in a way we can journey through it. We can't pretend the darkness doesn't exist, like a lot of people in the New Age movement who just live in love and light. I mean, it's great, but it's not real. It's not the reality, because the reality is our polarity.
Exactly. So I was telling him same thing too. I said there are so many ways. You know, when something shows up, there are so many different ways to look at it. I said what you said at first. I said, for one, I know that the minute it's really funny. Like, it's like when you become awake, all of a sudden your karma doubles up, right? So now that you know about, like, now that you're enlightened, you have to really do the practice and do the right thing. It's the same thing in human design. It's like, once you start knowing your design, how you were made, you're so different from everybody else, and what is your design, now you really have to live it. Otherwise, it's like the karma is really going to get you. So I said, okay, so you start doing these things, and you just looking and checking to see what is the result outside, right? I said, stop checking out your outer world, which is a Maya anyway, to see it. Just like, you know, people always make this, their deal with the universe or God or whatever is a business. I'm going to start doing my meditation and being more in nature, and I'm going to see what I'm going to get out of it. You know what I mean?
I do.
Is that we don't just do the right thing because
it's interesting you say that, because you're a Taurus. If I can use the archetype of Taurus, okay, because I love archetypes, and that's, you know, one of my wheelhouses. So the high expression of Taurus. And don't forget, we are told that Buddha was a Taurus. Isn't that interesting? And he was a Siddhartha.
Yeah. I didn't know that Buddha was a Taurus.
According to many sources, we can't prove that, but that is what most people say. But the point is, he was a prince, wasn't he? And he renounced wealth. Taurus is abundance. Taurus really does. It's why it rules the second house in modern astrology. It's resources. Yes, it's music, it's art. I mean, I have Taurus on my midheaven. I have some really beautiful instruments I use for healing. That's Taurus on my midheaven. You have a strong Taurus. Beauty is important. The thing is can we elevate it? Beauty towards God, beauty towards love, consciousness, as opposed to I need more. Taurus tends to, in the low expression, gather, hoard, store. You know, I have 1 million, I now need 3, or whatever it is, as opposed to I'm going to have a lot of stuff in order to teach people how to expand out, to creatively manifest for us, we the people. You see, we have a choice in this realm how to express the archetype. And so Taurus behooves us to be generous, to share our resources, to inspire others to make resources, to teach music, arts, all those things that the earth can provide. Good gardening, animal husbandry, all those Taurus things, the fields behind me, how much succor can we get, teaching herbs, teaching, how to create lovely tinctures from the medicine of the land.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so basically I said, okay, one part of it is like we don't do, you know, George, there are so many things that is always, when I look at humanity and the way they're thinking, is like I'm always thinking, what are they thinking? I mean, so many things look so silly to me. For instance, you know I shouldn't be saying this, but I just say things because my head center is open, so I can just say anything and it comes up. Like, I sometimes surprise myself, did I just say that? And then I got to think about it later on. I shouldn't have said that. But for instance, someone is telling me like they're really religious and they're so hooked on this religion. And I'm thinking, what I'm trying to share with you guys is that I'm thinking God or universe is the wholeness. And what's the sense of it that you create a church or some place, a mosque or something, and you are asking the whole universe that created everything, you're saying, God, are you going to come down once in a while and visit my mosque or heal people or do you know what I'm saying, George? You get what I'm saying?
I think I do. I mean, for me, back to the Taurus thing, as these mosques, these temples, they're there to be in service to the community. So we have to then question the ego. As long as these buildings or these structures that we build are genuinely in service to an elevated consciousness, then it's good. When they stop that and they have other purposes, then the energy is lost.
Mhm. Because I think one of the reason being is like we as human being, we put ourselves in so many boxes, and every box that we that I
Well,
put.
okay, let me respond to that. I very much come down on the fact that humans have been encouraged to do that by the mainstream narrative. And I'm talking education, I'm talking politics, the economic situation, but the cultural mores of Western civilization has sought to divide humanity and divide again and again and again. This is what the LGBTQYXZMW is all about. It's a constant division. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And, you know, the ones who struggle with that, they're caught up in that agenda. And, you know, back to the breath is being able to have the bird's eye view and see what the agenda is, and really say, I'm not playing in that sandbox. No, I'm not going to play at that level of consciousness. And what we're trying to do in our own unique archetypal ways is raise that level of consciousness, so we don't have to be divided between black, white, you know, Christian, Jew, Muslim, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because those are artificial constructs designed to keep us constantly at war and distracted, so then other nefarious agendas have more power. Again, it's what it is. And the more human beings wake up to that truth, and truth is painful, and this is part of the Uranus and Taurus, what we're going through right now, is we are really beginning to revise who we are as a species. What do we stand for? And, you know, many of us are really stepping into the light and choosing love, choosing higher levels of consciousness. And when we do that, we can then alchemize the old one. It's back to the Matrix, the documentary, because we can then see, you know, we have a choice between the red pill and the blue pill, and we choose the awakening pill, the red pill, you know, to bring us out of this false reality.
Yeah. So so what we're saying basically is, when you start to walk the path to awakening or enlightenment, don't expect your life to become easier.
Correct.
But expect that these are doors that are opening up to me now. They are opportunity. But if we constantly trying to look outward and see what changes is being created in my outer reality, then of course I'm going to be disappointed, because I'm constantly, right? I'm constantly looking to see, well, now that I'm awakened and I'm a spiritualist, a few years ago, I was laughing and I said, the minute I felt like I was awakened, everything in my life started to become turning to a chaos. Everybody, all my friends were gone. And I said, I woke up one day and I said, what happened? I awakened and everybody is gone. You know what I'm saying?
But it's but it is a process. I mean, we all know that. There's no such thing really as you suddenly wake up one day and you're awake. Maybe relative compared to yesterday, absolutely, and we honor that profoundly. But this life, back to the polarity, it's a journey. It's a constant helix rising. There is this spiral dynamic happening, and you know, I'm not necessarily better today than I was yesterday. I'm only as good as I am today. Tomorrow is another day. So it is the journey. It's the hero's journey towards truth, towards consciousness. So you know, we have to support each other on that, but we have to create structures. Here's the big point. We have to create better structures in our civilization to support us, the people, you know, human beings in this journey, because at the moment the old structures don't. It's very materialistic, it's very money driven, and it's very unsupportive of really what human beings need, and we're beginning to realize that. So these structures, back to Pluto and Capricorn, are being witnessed for their ineptitude, and we're going to create some amazing new structures for the people in this planet over the coming decade.
So what do you think fate and destiny has to have to do anything to our daily lives? Because a lot of people believe like their life is so out of control, and no matter how hard they work or how disciplined and they're living by the rules, but somehow the outer world is not reflecting what they're doing. So do you think there's a higher power, there's a destiny for us, or there's everything is about fate and everything is planned before we came here, or what?
Yeah, so here's what I think. And, you know, I use human design too, like you, but I predominantly use the astrological chart. The astrological chart it really reveals the soul contract. And so where you see where your sun, moon, ascendant, and all the great planets are tells you an awful lot about your strengths and weaknesses. This is very potent. It's why the Vatican Church banned it for 500, 600, 700 years. We, you know, can't have we the people having access to this information. The great thing is it starts to show us what we've chosen before we came in. As we came out of that birth canal, we made a pact, our higher self, saying we're going to have this set of experiences. Here comes the free will. We have a choice, don't we, as to how we want to express those archetypes. And that's the beauty and the dance between fate on the one hand and free will on the other. And it is this polarity, but it's this intersection. And it's this beautiful dance we all do, whether we're conscious of it or not, between fate or destiny on the one hand and free will on the other. There are certain things which are in our fate, yes, but then we have huge ability to respond. I'll give you an example. I can't control the vast chemtrails right now above my head. Not now, actually there are none today, but when I'm in America, there are a hell of a lot at the moment, as you know. And I can't control that right now. No, I can't. But I can control how I'm going to respond to them. I can control how many copper rods I'm going to put into the land when I plant. I have a green thumb when I plant plants, and how I can clean the water, and how I can energetically work with the food that I ingest. I can become conscious of the people I surround myself with. The ones who are toxic, I will just allow them to be, but I will not engage in that sandbox. And I think that's part of our evolutionary consciousness, all of us doing our bit like that. And then eventually what happens, the big organizations, they get turned around too. And that's a whole other conversation about the Great Awakening now, and the white hats and the black hats and people working behind the scenes helping humanity. That's not our brief today, but we're in a spiritual war, and it's very exciting because we're winning, because we're having these conversations now where a decade ago we weren't.
Well, thank you. So getting back to our topic, George, does social media creates more for us having lower self-image, being more into competition or competitiveness, or just to wrap it up, putting everything in a nutshell, what would you say?
Well, I mean, yes, I would say that social media, like all these, any form of AI, has a polarized instruction manual. So on the one hand, it is deeply destructive from an addictive quality, because one can get caught up and go down a negative rabbit hole where you get caught up in wanting to be popular or getting more likes or making more money. But the positive is people like ourselves now being able to connect across time and space and sharing ideas which may help the collective. So AI in a way is a bit neutral. When it's used with great intention, it's positive. When it's used and it's corrupted, it has negative intention. It's like anything. So I think we need to encourage more people, and the parents need to take more ownership over it with their children, and not allowing children so much time. It needs to be more monitored, but also inspiring people to realize that the human connection is what's most important. And actually, when we can connect to nature, then AI serves us, the human, as opposed to takes over the human. At the end of the day, AI must be in service to our biological human needs and not take over. And that's the battle. And that's where someone like Elon Musk is being very clear right now. Forget Elon Musk 5-10 years ago. The man now says that AI is more dangerous than a nuclear bomb, because if it's not being managed properly, it is very, very dark, and the potentiality for AI to take over humanity on one timeline is very real. And so we're all pushing the biological human because we really believe in our godliness and in our goodness. And I personally believe that human beings, when allowed to be human, they're deeply empathic, loving creatures.
Yeah, at the end, I would say, George, that if we could really understand energy, we can feel when we get somewhere. How do we feel, right? Again, I'm coming back to my dominant emotional part of me. But I'm just giving you a quick example. Like it was last year that I got pulled into Clubhouse. And every time I got invited to go to this Clubhouse, I didn't feel well. Like, you know, energetically, I was reading the whole room. There was all this crowd of people, and they were arguing and they were fighting. And the energy that I was getting wasn't putting me at ease. So I understood very soon that the energy is toxic here and I don't want to be here, right?
But
So when it comes to, yeah, go ahead.
no, this is very good what you're saying, because you're a good example of listening to your body, seeing how your body really, which is your whole mind body field, respond to a situation which is toxic, and then for you to choose to leave. Those are good choices. And the more we can listen to ourselves, and we listen to ourselves, we're more able to listen when our bodies are purer, meaning they're less toxified. We do need to do a lot of detoxification, all of us, because of what's been in the water, what's been in the food. So that's a lovely example at Clubhouse where you made a good decision to leave something that wasn't serving you. So every human being must listen to their own intuition in making those judgment calls.
Yeah, so what I'm saying, basically, maybe that helps other people when they come on social media. Just pay attention to how they feel, the first feeling that comes up, right? If you come in on Explore and you're seeing like all these different people and your mind is start getting you into some tricks that, oh, look at this person, oh, how many times this person is on Explore, and if you see that that brings some bad traits or energy in you, whether it's jealousy or competition, that's a sign for you that this is toxic for you. Just get out of there, right? But on the contrary, if you just go in and see someone that is giving you some knowledge, like our program, like George and I right now here,
Yeah.
and you feel
I'm very Jungian in the sense of, because I do astrology, I like archetypes. I mean, competition, I'll give you an example of positive competition, is we're having a conversation, you start telling me all that you know, which you know a lot about human design. My gosh, I need to research more of that, the 2-1 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's positive because it inspires me to take action.
Right.
The negative would be, you know, I don't like it, you know more than me, I'm then going to do something to stop you succeeding. So this is the whole thing. It's a self-awareness of why do we do what we do, and there is so much space on this planet to enjoy the polarity of expansion, where everyone is a winner in their own unique archetypal way. So in a way, winning for you is different for winning for me, and that's the beauty. Rather than the old Saturn system is saying, no, we're going to make us AI, all going to be robots, we're all going to be the same. You know, that's very negative timeline, where the positive is that every single one of you, everyone on this call has something deeply unique to offer. And I know that to be true because I've looked at thousands of astrological charts in my life. And it's just a question of revealing, bringing out that soul contract, because then we're in service, and humans love to be part of something, to be creative. We're designed to be innately creative souls incarnate.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, George. I got to end this live. I got another one coming up. And my followers, please share the love and the energy. Please follow George. He also has a retreat. Tell us once more about it for those who just joined us.
This retreat is all, we've hit maximum capacity, but I'll be doing more. I'll be doing one probably in Florida in the autumn, and I'll be doing, you know, many more. But this one's in Norway next week for the summer solstice. It's called Relight Your Fire. We're doing a lot of light activation. I teach sun gazing, and also I do a lot of Wim Hof hot cold techniques, as well as sound therapy, astrology, tarot, and many different other modalities like meditation and yoga we'll be offering too. I don't teach yoga. I wish I was more flexible.
Well, it was great having you. Good luck with whatever you do, George.
Thanks.
Good luck with your retreat, and I'll see you very, very soon.
Okay.
Much love to you.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody. I see someone keeps sending me a view request, and I don't know what is it about. So let me see if this lady, whoever it is, really needs have something quickly to share with, or accidentally she keeps trying to sent a request to me. Anyhow, guys, I'm leaving right now. Seems like she's not able to join me. Love you all, and I'll see you next week, next Wednesday, as usual. Uh, don't stay on social media. Listen to your guts, listen to your feelings. When every time you get somewhere, just see how do you feel. We are emotional bodies, we are emotional human beings. So the best thing you can do is listen to your feelings, listen to your gut. Love you all. See you next Wednesday. Bye bye. Take care. Bye.